Okay, so I'm sure I've been seeing a lot of comments like this one, and I can understand why a lot of people would be confused, especially when we've been posting things like this.
Hey girl, I can lift it, I can ride it while you flip it and slide it. I can do a little trick.
And I really want to reiterate that the internet has not been doing this out of competition. Like, this isn't a popularity contest. There is no competition when it comes to Diana. No. This was due to the fact that Princess Diana was a princess of the people. She was more like you and me than any of the other royals. She had a job and lived with flatmates. Even though she came from a wealthy background and was a lady, she was very well known for her charity work and just being a princess that everybody could relate to. Whereas Queen Elizabeth, on the other hand, during her reign, for decades was the overseer of the oppressed. And so much worse. We'll get into that. The world will always bear the scars of British colonisation and the trauma caused by the monarchical history over the centuries. Some will forever wear the atrocities to their lands and people as a reminder of what the British Empire have inflicted upon the world and the people of this earth. And rightfully so. People are showing the way that they feel through their freedom of speech via the internet.
He did absolutely nothing to help all of the countries that suffered from the trillions of dollars that Britain funded into slave trade. Exact same year that she went into power, there were multiple concentration camps set up in Kenya, which was under Britain's rule at the time. And in these camps, they tortured and killed over 150,000 Kenyans. Sounds like someone might not have been accepted into art school. In 1964, 10 indigenous children went missing right after Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip visited their school. There's a lot of suspicion that she kidnapped these children. While there's a lot of evidence that proves she did it, there's also not a lot of evidence that proves she didn't do it. Let's also not forget how she was involved in a certain person's death. I mean, hey, it's just a conspiracy, but not much is proved to...
Okay, so I'm going to try and explain the conspiracy around Diana's death as quickly and best as I possibly can. Reminder, this all happened when I was, being born, so, don't listen to me. But also do, because this is nuts. And the super suspicious circumstances around this car crash is also probably going to help explain a bit more, the people's reactions when it comes to Diana and the Queen. The best way that I can describe this in relation to Diana, who is Prince Harry's mum, would be to highlight what happened in recent years with Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and their exposure, really, of the royal family. And again, if you missed this, where have you been? Living under a rock? No, I'm totally kidding. Lots of things slip under my radar too, and again, some of y'all were probably just that little bit too young to understand really the magnitude of what Meghan and Harry did. They really put themselves in danger by leaving the royal family and revealing their perspective from the inside. Like mother, like son, the danger's similar to what got Princess Diana killed. To further explain the great loss of Princess Diana and the extremely suspicious circumstances surrounding her death, I'd first like to begin by showing you this letter that Diana wrote to her butler. My husband is planning an accident in my car. Brake failure, in order for him to marry Camilla. Now, she wrote this letter mere weeks before this happened to her. Let's just take this in for a moment. Is there not a coincidence that this happened? Pretty much exactly how she explained it would. Now, it's not like we can just call up the Crown or Charles or whatever and ask them actually what went on. However, what we do know is that this is Camilla Bowles, whom Prince Charles had an affair with when he was with Diana and has been married to since 2005. Now, Diana was the daughter of a lord, apparently 16th cousins of Prince Philip. I digress. Nonetheless, she'd always grown up with ties to the royal family, growing up around Prince Andrew, etc. So Diana met Charles when she was 16 and he was 29. I'd also like to point out that he was dating her sister at the time. Now again, we can't truly know what went on here without asking them. But it's said that Charles and Diana weren't always on the same page and that Charles had always had a soft spot for his ex, Camilla, who was a divorcee. And you can't marry divorcees in the Sovereign, if you check out my King Edward video below. Anyway, Diana and Charles got engaged and married with that 13-year age gap, had children, did the whole damn thing. Everything seemed picture perfect until word got out that Charles was potentially having an affair. But not only Charles, Diana as well. I mean, Diana always said she felt like there was 3 of them in their marriage, considering Camilla was around all the time. Check this out. The audacity. Could have been out of spite, who knows. But Diana seemed to have retaliated, and their marriage did not last. Now, it's said that she actually had an affair with a man named James Hewitt. I'm gonna leave that to you guys to decide. Now, check this out.
My mother was chased to her death while she was in a relationship with someone that wasn't white. And now look what's happened. My mother was chased to her death while she was in a relationship with someone that wasn't white. And now look what's happened. You want to talk about history repeating itself? They're not going to stop until she dies.
Now are you starting to see where this is getting a bit suspicious? Now, Princess Diana was like a free woman. She was a princess of the people, like an advocate for AIDS. Someone finally from the royal family that we all could relate to. Now, being the beautiful, free-spirited woman she was, Diana fell in love with a man named Dodi Fayed, the son of esteemed billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed. Now, of course, this relationship brought on an absolute tabloid frenzy. No matter where they went, they were exponentially followed by trails of paparazzi. Now, one night after staying at the Paris Ritz Hotel, Diana and Dodi went to get some privacy and was led out the back door of the hotel in an unmarked car by their bodyguard and a driver. The car never made it to its destination, and unfortunately, this is when the fateful crash occurred, killing everyone inside except for Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones.
Whether this was something other than a traffic accident or not, something of this magnitude involving Diana, Princess of Wales, the scene should have been preserved.
Would you believe that a tragedy of this magnitude was completely scrubbed clean within 4 hours of the accident?
Sweep the streets, spray detergent in the tunnel. Not the best way of preserving forensic evidence. Was it a cleanup or a cover?
Like, no crime scene was made, nothing was sectioned off, nothing was investigated, just completely scrubbed clean and disinfected within a matter of hours. Seems a bit sus to me. Not only is that just like the strangest outcome of events, of a tragedy of this magnitude, apparently Princess Diana was still alive and was taken by ambulance to hospital. Apparently there were delays. I don't know ambulance protocol, but there were allegedly delays in getting her to the hospital by saying they had to pull over because of high blood pressure and other things to perform paramedic procedures. No inquest was made into the deaths, which by law has to be done. No evidence was gathered. Eyewitness testimonies ignored. The scene scrubbed down within 4 hours of it happening. Now, the father of Dodi Fayed, businessman and billionaire, made great allegations against the Crown, claiming they definitely had something to do with it.
You work for MI6, you idiot.
From the moment he stepped into the witness box, it was an extraordinary spectacle, as he outlined his beliefs that Diana and Dodi were murdered by MI6 on the orders of Prince Philip. But not just Prince Philip. What about Prince Charles, he was asked. He participated in it, Mr. Al Fayed said, and I am sure he knows what is going to happen, because he would like to get on and marry his Camilla. And this is what happened. They cleared the decks, they finished her, they murder her, and now he is happy. He married his crocodile wife.
So that man was the father of Dodi Fayed, whom Diana was in a relationship with at the time. Fast forward to this monstrosity, which claimed the lives of Diana and Dodi Fayed. Now, understandably so, esteemed billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed funded many investigations into this royal inquest, as he was certain the royal family was to blame for this. He funded investigations into actual Mercedes-Benz, the car that claimed their lives. He funded crash tests, you name it, which did reveal upon inspection that there were some white paint marks on one of the taillights of this unmarked car that claimed their lives, suggesting that the car had actually been run off the road. Whether by tabloids or not, I mean, all eyewitness testimonies were thrown away, the scene scrubbed down within 4 hours. I understand why this man invested so much time into the inquest of this. Now, the car being run off the road would have made a bit of sense considering this tabloid frenzy, considering a number of tabloids were actually charged with this for causing a frenzy and creating this crash, which only one eyewitness to the crash can concur. This actually did not happen. You can find this eyewitness testimony online as well. He was completely ignored. And ultimately, the tabloids that were charged for this were released, and instead the blame was placed on the driver of the car, whom died on impact. These inconclusive answers, these multiple suspicious circumstances leading up to this, has raised many eyebrows amongst the entire world and still to this day. Oh yeah, and you know how the entire scene was scrubbed down within 4 hours? Apparently that white paint on the car managed to be traced back to a photographer for the British Intelligence Agency, mysteriously was found unalive. This is all too much. Please go back and watch this entire series to understand the depth of this. The fact that this photographer was found unalived yet again seems pretty suspicious to me. And just not to mention that this letter existed mere weeks before the actual event happened. Can we please just never ever forget this aspect of the story? Now it's starting to make a little bit more sense about Harry and Meghan's situation. Thank you for sticking around for this series. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I've left out. I've tried my best to explain this as quickly and as best as possible, which still managed to take a very long time. So if you've stuck around this entire time, thank you. And just for a bit of extra drama, I'm gonna leave y'all with this. Okay, so what you're going to watch now speaks profoundly about what Harry and Meghan did in 2019.
My mother was chased to her death while she was in a relationship with someone that wasn't white. And now look what's happened. You want to talk about history repeating itself? They're not going to stop until she died.
When I first met my now husband, my friends were really happy because I was so happy. But my British friends said to me, I'm sure he's great, but you shouldn't do it because the British tabloids will destroy your life. And I very naively, I'm American, we don't have that there. What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not in tabloids. I didn't get it. So it's been complicated.
Within the first 8 days of our relationship being made public was when it said Harry's girl almost straight out of Compton, and that her exotic DNA will be thickening the royal blood. You would get followed, photographed, chased, harassed. The clicking of cameras and the flashes of cameras makes my blood boil. It makes me angry. It takes me back to what happened to my mum and what I experienced when I was a kid. But it went to a whole new depth. With not just traditional media, but also social media platforms as well. I felt completely helpless. I thought my family would help. But every single ask, request, warning, whatever it is, just got...
And that's, I think, so important for people to remember is you have no idea what's going on for someone behind closed doors. You have no idea. Even the people that smile the biggest smiles and shine the brightest lights, it seems, to have compassion for what's actually potentially going on. If you zoom in, what I see is how tightly his knuckles are gripped around mine. You can see the whites of our knuckles because we are smiling and doing our job, but we're both just trying to hold on. And every time that those lights went down in that royal box, I was just weeping. And he was gripping my hand, and then it was, okay, intermission's coming. The lights are about to come on. Everyone's looking at us again, and you have to just be on again.